Welcome back to the Roadmap to Retirement podcast. Jason Grover is making his second appearance on the show.
This is Roadmap to Retirement. Tune in for financial tips, investment strategies, and smart money moves to supercharge your retirement savings. Alex Neri, CFP, and guests are here to help you build your roadmap to retirement.
Jason, thank you for coming back.
My pleasure.
All right, we're going to dive right into it. So we talked off camera about a couple different ideas. I think I like the topic most of a lot of times people are talking to their financial advisor about retirement. That's always like the first goal is, when do you want to retire? What do you want that to look like? Which is great. We want to retire.
Yep.
But there's a lot of other goals that I think people should have in their financial plan, especially earlier on. You know, it's probably not that motivating when you're 30 years old to be focused on my retirement in 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's other things you want to achieve along the way, I think it's great to build those into the plan. So I'll toss it over to you in a second, but to kind of kick us off, a couple common ones that we see are, I want to buy a cottage or a lake house.
Mm-hmm.
I want to retire early. Just because your parents work till 65 doesn't mean that you have to. So maybe if you're 30 years old, listening to this right now, what can we do to make sure you can retire by 50 if you want to?
Okay.
So I think kind of framing it as just like some of those things that feel like pipe dreams when you say it out loud, but you and I both know sitting here today, you know, this is just a math problem. We can figure out a way to get you to X amount of dollars to retire, 45, if that's what you want to do. It's just a matter of what are you willing to do to get there. So I'll stop talking for a second, but what have you run into on those conversations?
Well, one of the first thought I have, I don't want to dismiss retirement planning because we have young people such as yourself who will be having their first child soon. They want to provide for that child. They want to provide their education. They want to just make sure that they can, be educated debt-free or et cetera. And I think we need to focus on that retirement plan first. We got to make sure that we're not asking those children for money in our later years just because we educated them. So I think once we have the financial plan in place for retirement, then we can start looking at other goals. So I think the retirement shouldn't be glossed over. It should be probably the main topic. And then we can start talking about the lake houses, educating our children, and et cetera.
Yes, I'm glad you took a step back there because I do run into that a lot. Young parents always want to sacrifice for their child, and that's great. They love their baby. Yep. They want to do everything they can for their baby.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden they're neglecting their own, to your point, retirement needs.
Correct.
And I'm sure you have stories, and I do too, with a person who's way under saving for retirement, but all of a sudden they want to fund $500 a month into a 529 account because, again, they're putting their kids' needs ahead of their own. But
I have a real world story regarding that. So I have a situation where the clients have shared with me recently how much debt they're in. And after I peel back the layers, I realized what they've been doing is they've been working longer. They've been spending more to provide for adult children, that for their adult children's lifestyle, not their own lifestyle. So here they are in their 70s, still working, a tremendous amount of debt because they still want to provide for their adult children. And now they're to a point where they've got to make some real hard decisions and have some real hard conversations with these children because of their actions. That the children are the recipients of their generosity, but now there's going to have to be some big changes in the family because of that.
I think that's an interesting, I've seen similar, but maybe not to the same extent that what you're describing. I think a lot of times this is the benefit of bringing in multiple generations into the financial planning process. Because I would guess, and I don't know these people, but I would guess that their adult children who they're supporting are not fully aware of the extent to which mom and dad are going to debt to support them.
You are 100% correct.
Might just be under the impression that mom and dad have boatloads of money and they're able to do this, and they don't see that they're taking a mortgage against the house or they're running up credit card debt. They're doing all this stuff. So I think by bringing the adult children into the picture, you might get them to sort of change their behavior as how they're spending money because now they know that they're putting mom and dad in a hole to do that.
Well, that's with anything with family. If it's just a couple, if it's the extended family, et cetera, communication is the key. You have to be open and honest. And when I sit down with a couple for the first time, I really want to talk about in the open what their retirement looks like. He might want to go fishing and hunting and be on his boat, and she may want to travel the world. Well, that kind of doesn't coincide with a joint retirement. It's okay to have a siloed retirement if that's their goal, but having those conversations early about what retirement really looks like, bringing the family in to understand what their lifestyle is costing them. Cutting off children sometimes when they need to face reality is huge. But we are also talking about a generation of people, especially baby boomers, who were raised by Depression era parents, so they have a lot of baggage that they come to our offices with that we've got to uncover, and sometimes that takes a long time to kind of empty that baggage and put it with real life scenarios and situations.
Sure. When you think about like a couple kind of getting on the same page about what retirement wants to look like, and you think your example of the husband and wife having very different ideals, it's one of my favorite questions is to start with, you mentioned you want to retire. Why do you want to retire? Because a lot of times people just have this idea of, I'm getting older, my friends are retiring. I'm getting Social Security now, like I should stop working. And you start to uncover that they don't actually want to stop working necessarily. Maybe that occupation gives them a lot of meaning in life. They want to keep doing that, but they want to have kind of a mental shift or a financial shift where they're working for purpose and meaning, not working for money anymore. And we start to uncover that it's not, I want to retire so I boat all day. It's, I just want to know that I could retire and then I want to keep doing exactly what I'm doing, or fill in the blank.
A lot of times can I retire if I choose to? Work does provide a lot of meaning in people's lives, and we have to remember that as well. Money doesn't solve all the problems or even provide happiness.
Just new problems.
It's just, these are good problems though, but it does give us choices, options. Money will provide a lot of options for you if you plan properly.
So let's tie that back to the original kind of question. Let's say these people want to retire early. There's this whole FIRE movement out there, which most people have heard of, which is financial independence, retire early, FIRE. So let's say for me, if I'm talking to, we'll say a 35-year-old, and they say, hey, Alex, I really want to retire at age 50. My first question is why? Like, what do you want to do at age 50 that's not working? And a lot of times they have great answers. It's very buttoned up. It's about spending time with family. It's about traveling. It's pursuing a passion project. Other times it's just, I think it sounds cool. I want to do that. That might not be as motivating. So I think having that purpose is kind of square one, but I'll flip it over to you. If this person's talking to you as their advisor, they say, hey, Jason, I really want to retire at age 50. I'm 35 years old now. What are the steps I should be taking to do that? Is it just save more? What else can you do?
Well, I often say it's not what you have, it's how much you spend. And so it's really the lifestyle that you choose to fund, and how are we going to fund that? And so I have people that can retire with, a few $100,000, but I also have people that have a few $1 million and couldn't fathom retiring just because of their lifestyle. And so that's really the question is how much are you spending? Where are you spending that money? And how are you going to sustain that lifestyle through inflationary times? And that's the number one thing people really don't understand is 20 years, 30 years, heck, 60 years, if you want to retire at 30 years old, unless you've done some significant savings or have some significant inheritance, or I just don't know how somebody would be able to live a lifestyle 30, 40, 50 years from now without some significant savings to maintain that lifestyle.
Sure. Yeah. Savings is definitely a big aspect of it. The other thing that I've noticed a lot, and I saw some stats out there recently, I'm not going to quote them perfectly right, but there's a trend of houses getting bigger through each generation. So like my house I'm a millennial. The average home that a millennial bought is much larger than my grandparents. Right.
Yeah.
And there's also a trend of people having less children.
Yeah.
So when you kind of put those two graphs over each other, you have more square footage for less people. And I think that ties back to this idea of like, can I retire earlier, or can I even just live within my means? A lot of people are stretching their means so far to accommodate something that I guess feels like a need on the surface. Like I need to have a house, but do I need to have that house?
Right.
And I think it's very hard for people to not fall into this trap throughout progressing their career, earning more money, always keeping up with the Joneses, getting the next big house.
Yeah.
When the reality is, if you're a millennial listening to this and you're like me, and you've got a dog and a baby on the way, you probably don't need the 4,000 square foot house. You can probably get by with, if your grandparents are around, and ask them what they had when they had a family, and
I have a family of 5. We're tripping over each other in a 3,000 square foot house. So it really depends on your needs and wants. And I have a couple who raised a family with 3 kids. There was a family of 5 in Manhattan, and they slept in bunk beds. They were constantly in the same room, and they loved it. They couldn't imagine living any other way, where
Sounds awful.
it sounds awful. But they truly are a close-knit family. They do a lot of things together. They're adult children now, and they're part of the family, and very, very happy and connected. Whereas we see a lot of these families that have plenty on the outside, but they're missing those relationships. So it's really about that as well, too. So
closer proximity is good for the family, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, it's worked for my family.
Yeah.
We're very close, and not as close as the Manhattan family, but it works. So, it all depends on who you are, what you want, what you're trying to achieve.
So we covered the FIRE movement, people trying to retire early, which is one of my favorite conversations to have with clients. Is I love meeting with a younger couple that's like really motivated to actually take action on this. Are the people that are willing to sacrifice the big house and the nice car. They're the people that are saving at a much higher rate, investing. But I think it's awesome.
I love it even more when I see families that have gone through the debt crisis, or they bought too big of a house. They are trying to keep up with the Joneses. Their kids are playing travel, and then the light bulb goes on, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we are blowing all of this money to please other people that we don't even like," and come back to it. Another couple that I've recently met that have really focused on their debt, except for their home, and now they're saving so much money that they're going to be able to probably retire much earlier than they ever thought, not because they went through the FIRE movement, but because they all had personal responsibility and
change the way they look at money and behave and all that. I think, you don't want to ever make bad financial decisions, but there might be some value in getting burned by a stupid purchase in your early 20s and then digging out of that hole. And the lesson, if you started out life buried in student loans, or you bought a stupid car when you were 25, and then you realize that, okay, that wasn't a good financial decision, and you go through the work to dig out of that. By the time you dig out of that hole, you are a different person. You've learned a lesson. You're way more disciplined. And if that carries through your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you might be way further ahead than had you not had that experience.
We go back to just the idea of your grandparents, for example. My parents, they had one income. They had one car. They had a modest home. They didn't have cable and cell phones and Scrabble sports and 2 working people. There was such a change in our society that just costs more money, and because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. And so I think it's really healthy for the millennials and Generation Z, which are my children. I think it's Generation Z, right?
I think so.
I think that's what it's called. I don't know. They call me the fossil.
Okay.
You're such a fossil, Dad.
Okay. Happen to all of us one day.
It's all good. But to the light go on, like, okay, we don't need this. This is ridiculous. My parents, the helicopter parents, and this travel sports that you and I did, and it's not needed to raise good people, and we can really be better with our money and put it to work a lot smarter than maybe the baby boomer and the Gen X's did.
I think every generation makes a mistake, but it's interesting to I love looking at the generations and how the mentality around money has changed.
Yes.
Like you talk about my grandparents' generation or whatever. And my grandfather had modest income, raised a family. My grandmother didn't work. They never had an auto loan. He always bought cars in cash. He wasn't buying, anything extravagant, but that was the mentality of, if I don't have enough cash to buy this vehicle, I can't afford it. So I'm not going to buy it. Whereas now when you think about, can you afford a car? We're not talking about, do you have a lump sum of cash to buy that car? We're talking about, can you afford the $700 a month monthly payment?
Right.
And you can do the math and say, sure enough, pretty much everybody can make a pretty large car payment. You don't have to be rich to afford a Mercedes. You just have to divert cash flow from saving back into your car. And is that smart? I don't know, but
no,
I'm a millennial, so I guess that's what happens.
No, that's not smart, especially a depreciation asset. And I just don't think that we're educated properly in finance, and partially because our educators aren't educated in finance. I do see a trend shifting that we're starting a little bit earlier in high school of some financial planning, understanding what compound interest is, what taxes are, what a mortgage is. I think these are things that should have been taught. I mean, we don't have home economics anymore in classes.
Right.
And these are important skill sets that are in the real world. I think that everybody having a college education, and we can do that by borrowing money, actually set us up, a lot of people up for failure.
Yeah.
Having the car payment, so this is where these corporations and our politicians have kind of brainwashed us to kind of go towards this debt mentality.
Well,
and
campaigns are funded by the credit card companies. So
exactly.
not to go too tinfoil hat, but maybe they don't want you to be financially savvy.
Of course not.
Of course not.
And that's not
How do they make money on that?
Exactly.
I do think back to the generational thing, which we keep coming back to, it's the Gen Z people. So your boys that are entering the workforce now, statistically are better savers. They're better about their health choices. They drink less. But there might be some hope for Gen Z to kind of save us from this whole thing, but they're also less social. So I don't know if that's good or not.
Yeah, that is a problem. So, we all have our own issues, and we all make our own mistakes. I definitely don't agree with that trend of the socialization. I drive my family crazy because I make friends in the lines at Wegmans.
I believe it.
Everybody's my friend, and I want to get to know them and understand them a little bit until I realize I'm like, oh, I don't want to be this person's friend.
I think maybe at a certain age, it starts to feel weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're not there yet. You got plenty of years.
Yeah, but I know, I hope that I'm always willing and able to engage in constructive conversation with anybody that I meet. I don't care if they're 10 years old or if they're 100 years old. I think that's a skill that I'm so glad that I have, that my boys have, and not as, it's not as well tuned as me, because they just are a part of that tablet phone generation. My daughter, who's only 4.5, she talks to everybody. She's going to have it.
I'll keep her off the phone. It'll be good. No phones.
She's going to come work for us and be on the
20
phone.
years. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. So we spent more time than I thought we would on this retire early piece. We took our segues from there.
Yeah.
I do want to get back to another one that you brought up, which is sort of like this pipe dream goal.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people early on, they almost don't let themselves believe that this idea is possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's different for everybody. I use the example of, buying a lake house or having some kind of, thing like that to work towards. So I guess a couple parts of my question. One is, what do you tell the young people today that are maybe not giving themselves enough credit for what they're capable of?
Yeah.
And two, once you get to that financial position where you can afford it, like, what are the signs that you can recognize it? Because I also see a lot of people who are later in their career, they've made good money, they've saved money, they've invested.
Yep.
Maybe they're even retired now, and they're hesitant to spend that money on that thing for themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's truly is a problem. Savers don't just become spenders overnight, and spenders just don't become savers overnight. There has to be a catalyst. And so what I always do for every goal, well, one, we have to establish what is it that we're trying to achieve. The first goal are needs. Well, the needs are a retirement income and medical insurance. We need to make sure that those needs are met. Everything else is either a want or a wish. So a want of a cottage or a lake house or a summer home. Well, let's put a date specific, dollar specific goal in mind. And you really want to understand, okay, I want to spend $500,000, or I want to borrow $500,000. And at this particular time, so it's date specific, dollar specific, and how do we fund that going forward, and how do we fund that once we achieve that purchase or whatever it may be. So it's really a mathematical problem. is understanding what the date specific, dollar specific. And if we can figure that out, I can then work backwards of where we're at today and how much it actually will cost them. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
I think a little bit. I'm almost looking for, I don't know if encouragement's the right word, but you're talking to a 25-year-old who says, Jason, I'll probably never be able to afford a lake house. Like, I don't think that's possible. And we could do the math problem part of it. We could look at like the compound interest. And if you do this, this, and this, eventually you'll get there. It seems like with the younger generation, there's almost like a disbelief in, I don't know, like to them, maybe the system is rigged and they can't let capitalism offers or whatever.
Apologize. I would set them up for success incrementally. So maybe there's a student loan. Let's really tackle that student loan, a down payment for a house, paying off the car, things that are real achievable in a short period of time so that they start believing in themselves that if they stick to a plan, if they execute the plan, if they don't veer off the plan, that they'll be able to make whatever goal they set for themselves, as long as that goal's in reality. Sometimes that's getting a second job. Sometimes that's what Dave Ramsey says it best, I think. Live like no one else will, so you can live like no one else can. I may have butchered that a little bit, but I think that's the gist of it.
Yeah, the premise, yeah.
Yeah. And so if you're willing to make those sacrifices, if you're willing to really set your goals as a focus of your life, then anything's possible. And I think showing kids, especially at 25, 30 years old, that may have a little bit of doubt for themselves. They feel like maybe they're coming out with a lot of student debt. They're coming there and I'm never going to be able to achieve that down payment for the home, et cetera. I think let's think of things that will build success so that you can build confidence in yourself. So it's not necessarily a financial, but a confidence building exercise. Yes. And that really goes a long way. So when you believe in yourself, a lot of things happen.
Yeah, for sure. I think for a lot of people, they feel like the odds are stacked against them. They're just graduating college or looking at a mountainous loan debt.
The odds are stacked against
a job market that's not what their parents had. No matter how we dressed it up, it's not the same as it used to be. So overcoming that is one small step at a time.
And they're 100% correct. It's not what it used to be. It is stacked against them. Life is not fair. Nobody cares. And if you want to achieve your goal, you got to be the one that goes out and does it.
And we're all going to be dead soon.
Oh, that's 100% guaranteed.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, anything else you want to throw out there?
No, I think anything that you put your mind to that you are serious about and that you write it down, have these financially speaking, but that really comes with anything, is achievable. And sometimes goal A is not achievable. So you need to pivot. Or I always say there's no such thing as plan B. You always go for plan A, but sometimes plan A needs to shift. And so plan B now becomes plan A. So now I'm always gearing towards that goal of what we're trying to achieve. So believe in yourself and have confidence in yourself and know when to pivot, because that's sometimes you're going to have to.
All right. Love it. I think money's a really dumb reason not to do something. So
I would agree with that.
Figure out a way to live your dreams and don't let money hold you back.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the way that you envisioned. Take time and pride in the successes that you do have, even the little ones.
All right. Sweet. We'll end there. Thanks for listening.
Cool. Thanks.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax or legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Jason Grover, AIF, is not affiliated with or endorsed by Cultivate Financial Planning.